I don't exist. The person I was, he's dead.
I don't think you're a bad person. I don't think that there are actually bad people.
You get to speak right now out of extreme privilege. You got to keep everybody. That's what you got to do. You got to keep all the important people in your fucking life. I didn't.
Can you only feed on other kindred?
I will neither confirm nor deny that statement, but you best not say that in front of other company. Most of what I do is not good.
Hey, medium rare, are you fucking perfect?
I'm gonna
Really?
tear your head off if you don't shut the fuck up. I appreciate you being around, and I wouldn't want you to not be. I'm on the side that I'm on is because I like to do what I want. I don't like to have to do what other people want.
Then why won't you look at me? You're as handsome as ever.
Yeah. Yeah, real. Yeah. It's that.
All right?
Oh, I'm great. I feel great.
Don't lie to him. You're not great. You're never great. You haven't been great since you breathed, and you weren't great then either.
Your safety is very important to me, Jasper.
Yours is important to me too. I'm very happy that I'm alive because I have things to live for now. Every time I leave my house, something bad happens. And now, bad stuff happens in my house. I don't want to do anything anymore. I want to be left alone.
We lead a fucked up life and you got an extra fucked up hand dealt to you out of an extra fucked up deck. But this world is better because of you.
Hello, and welcome back, family, to Masquerade Monday. This is the first in a new series of videos for Masquerade Monday where I'll be doing in-depth profiles of the characters of LA by Night. You all have spoken, and the first video you wanted to see was about everyone's favorite sad boy, Jasper Heartwood. So Kindred, let's dive in.
From money. Back in New York. Right? What do spoiled kids do with money? Find ways to spend it. Find things to occupy their time. Went to college. Didn't feel like I had enough power in the world.
Jasper was presumably born into a wealthy family and raised in the state of New York. As a young man in university, Jasper felt like he didn't have enough power in the world, and instead of seeking out mundane ways to become more influential in society, he found himself drawn to a secret society called the Blind League, which supposedly promised its members prestige through magical means. At some point, Jasper and his yet unnamed best friend, who was also a member of the Blind League, got into some sort of argument. Jasper felt that his best friend was getting more clout or stealing his spotlight, and the quarrel escalated to a physical altercation, ending with Jasper stabbing his best friend with an intricately made knife. This prompted Jasper to flee New York for the West Coast, taking from his friend a few items such as books before he left. Whether the knife belonged to this friend is unclear. It's also unknown if Jasper attempted to cover his tracks. Either way, it seems clear that Jasper became disillusioned with this Blind League as a true way to attain magical power. Jasper traveled to California, and although it is unclear if he continued to search for real magic in the world, he did find himself falling for a young woman named Chloe when he was working as a bartender. What Jasper did during his time as a mortal in Los Angeles is unclear, but allusions have been made that he was a contract killer, or at the very least, according to Jasper, did things that made other people mad. Jasper theorizes that as a consequence for his actions, those people took his whole life away.
Some people get turned because they make other people angry, and I made other people angry. And so they decided I made them angry enough to take my life away. And I'm not talking about living or dying. They took my whole life away. Now that I'm dead, I figured I'd just continue doing what made people angry. What made me happy kind of went away when I died.
One night, as Jasper returned home, an unknown Nosferatu ambushed him and gave Jasper the embrace. The embrace of the Nosferatu is especially painful, as the body warps and twists as the blood creates a new vampire. Jasper suffered for an unknown amount of time as he died and was reborn as a kindred. Upon awakening, Jasper noticed his new disfigured appearance. Grayish skin, thick black veins encompassing his whole body, and wickedly long fangs. The second thing Jasper noticed was the hunger.
I didn't want this.
I wanted to stay where I was. But this was done to me. A man appeared in my place one night and changed me with no explanation and then left. I didn't know what I was. I didn't know what to do. And so I left. And I eventually figured things out.
Why didn't you come to me then?
Because I was... You don't understand what that hunger feels like. I knew that if I went to you, you would be dead.
Again, we don't know how long he fought against his beast, but somehow he found himself in the labyrinth underneath Griffith Park. And there, Jasper saw another Nosferatu in torpor. Jasper claims that he frenzied upon seeing him and drank from him. After it was done, Jasper was struck with awe and fear at the architectural wonder he found himself in.
When I found this place, I stumbled in here. And I was in here for a long time. A long time. I don't know how long. But I found him. And I didn't know what I was.
Of course.
I didn't know what was going on. I was really hungry. And I fed on him.
You were just turned?
I just turned. And then no one explained anything to me, nothing.
I understand.
I thought, I didn't know how this worked. I thought I killed him. I don't think I did.
Jasper, assuming he had killed his clanmate, took the Nosferatu's residence in the access tunnels that lead to the labyrinth and began to study it with the help of the book the Nosferatu left behind. A book, Jasper would discover, responds to his blood, or at the very least, the blood of the Nosferatu clan. Now, during this time, Jasper learned that he was now considered legally dead, and found other kindred, including the local Nosferatu led by Gary Golden, and a Malkavian named X, to teach him what exactly he was and how to survive in this new unlife. He also introduced himself to the Anarch Baron that controlled the domain where his haven was located, Isaac Abrams, and offered his services as a contract killer, likely only of other kindred. This would suit Jasper since it became apparent that he strictly adhered to his predator style as a blood leech, meaning he would only feed on other kindred. Jasper eventually joined a coterie comprised of a Ventru named Victor Temple and a Toreador named Nellie G, both of whom led very different lives from the reclusive Jasper. They were given Griffith College as a shared domain and were tasked with protecting the Masquerade. At some point, the coterie were responsible, albeit inadvertently, for rescuing some women who were being trafficked. When Jasper wasn't studying the mysteries of the labyrinth or working with his coterie, he spent his time watching his mortal girlfriend Chloe, who, years later, still obviously mourned his death. Eventually, Jasper's coterie, now including the newly embraced Bruja Annabelle, met a Tremere living in Griffith Park named Eva. Eva, being Tremere, was well adept at performing blood magic. This was real magic, the kind the human Jasper could only dream of. After this first meeting, Jasper began meeting with Eva, offering boons and favors in exchange for lessons in blood sorcery. When the coterie wandered down into the labyrinth under the impression that Jasper was in danger, they all discovered not only what he did for Baron Abrams, but also his feeding preferences.
You remember when I told you I don't hurt people? I don't hurt people. We're not people. I hurt things that aren't people. You want to know how I avoid hurting people? I do drink from her. Most kindred are awful. And to be fair, we're all pretty awful.
Surprisingly, to Jasper anyway, they did not shun him or threaten to blackmail him with the information. Instead, they accepted it, each with varying degrees of reluctance. Perhaps emboldened by having taken steps towards accepting this existence, Jasper attempts to try and convince Chloe to move on from her grief and forget about him. He decides to spy on her in a coffee shop and then slip her a note telling her essentially to live her life and be happy.
The note says, "Sorry for listening, but I happen to be sitting nearby, and while your friend may not understand what you're feeling, She is right. You should have somewhere to come home to, and you should move forward. Sorry for listening. Again.
This backfires on Jasper, and Chloe becomes obsessed with finding out if Jasper is actually alive somewhere. Unbeknownst to him, this would lead Chloe down a path from which there is likely no return. During her investigation into his death, Chloe becomes bloodbound to another Anarch venture named Fiona, and is eventually captured by the Second Inquisition. Jasper loses track of Chloe during this time for obvious reasons, but also because he's a little busy with kindred affairs. During an attempted rescue of 3 Tremere seeking asylum with the Anarchs in LA, Jasper decapitates the Camarilla sheriff, who arrived to interfere with the rescue. This set off a chain of events that led Praxis to be declared by the former Prince of San Francisco, Vannevar Thomas, and for him to name Jasper as his new sheriff. Jasper and the rest of his coterie do their best to string the Camarilla along, but eventually Jasper flat out refuses the offer. Although this could have resulted in a blood hunt being called on him, the punishment the Camarilla had in mind was somewhat different. Eventually, Jasper learns of Chloe's fate, and after she is rescued from the Second Inquisition, it becomes immediately apparent that the hunters did something to Chloe. Chloe seems delirious, weakened, and insensible to the world around her. Jasper calls on Eva for help, and although she does save Chloe's life, she is forced to ghoul Chloe herself as she is able to stop a bond forming between them. It is clear that both Jasper and Eva have developed deeper feelings for each other, and this incident causes a rift. Chloe doesn't stick around, and supposedly leaves Eva's haven without a word. Eva doesn't stay long either. After an incident in Anaheim where Eva entered torpor due to sustained injuries, she left for New York. But she did leave Jasper a ring with an inscription inside, Moi begrovia Lebestock, my crimson petal. When Eva returned, Jasper took her to explore the labyrinth. They traveled through a mirror that transports one to the nexus of the maze-like structure, and found the Nosferatu Jasper fed on all those years ago, still in torpor underneath those red veins. Upon investigating, Eva believes those red veins are ley lines, and claims they connect to certain areas of the city. Not only that, but they can be manipulated for good or for ill. When Eva pulls on one of the strands, it triggers a shadow to pour out of the labyrinth, and after the two escape, they share a kiss, and Eva offers to stay with him in his haven.
You can come back here whenever you want. I don't get a lot of visitors, so you're welcome.
I like that. I think I've been alone for long enough.
Yeah, I get that. That's been a long time.
Maybe I'll stay for a while and read through some of those books.
Yeah.
I can bring you some of mine too.
I would like that.
The next night, before Jasper goes to meet his coterie, he leaves a necklace on the doorstep of her haven, a glass vial with a dried sunflower inside, sealed by a jasper stone. Unfortunately, these peaceful moments wouldn't last. At the opening of Victor's new club, the Maharani, the two La Sombra scourges of the Camarilla attack, and eventually, Jasper is taken by the La Sombra Aurora and delivered to the Camarilla. Fortunately, but unbeknownst to Jasper, Victor's former and likely still current ally, Ebe, was not only embraced into the La Sombra clan, but was also named sheriff. They decided to make a show of Jasper's final death. He was staked and strapped to the Hollywood sign very near to dawn. Luckily, Ebe was able to warn Victor in time for them to rescue Jasper, but upon awakening from torpor, it is very apparent that this had a profound effect on him. He suddenly admits that he's happy to not be dead, and that he actually has things to live for now.
I didn't expect you to come get me, nor did I expect to live. I am grateful that you did, don't get me wrong. I'm very happy that I'm alive, because I have things to live for now.
Now?
Now.
What's changed?
A lot of things.
It should also be noted that the ring given to him by Eva, the spirit-warded necklace, and his favorite blade were all taken from him while he was in the Camarilla's custody. As his undead flesh heals, Jasper grows hungrier and decides to admit to Eva that he feeds on other kindred. This doesn't seem to bother her, and she offers him more of her blood, which she had already given to him to rouse him from torpor. He refuses and elaborates more on what he does, confessing that not only does he feed on kindred blood, but because it's such a dangerous way to sustain himself, he often finds bad people, embraces them, keeps them in cages in his haven, and feeds that way. Eva is less okay with this.
We need to have a talk about feeding. I'll explain in detail later, but for now, what you did to wake me up is pretty close.
Oh, do you need more blood?
No, I'm fine now. I don't ever need you to do that. I'm just saying.
Wait, you could if you wanted to.
Because you don't. You can choose not to bond.
Yes.
Right.
I would do that for you.
It's dangerous what I do and not supposed to be done, and usually an outright killable offense. So I take bad people and I make them not people, and then I keep them there.
You're getting mortals?
Yeah. And then I make them not mortals, and then I live off them for a while.
Who are you feeding to the bad people? Other bad people?
I try to feed them as little as possible.
Don't do that anymore. Don't.
We're here, sir.
There's not much time to discuss this issue, however, because soon the coterie discovers that the Camarilla, specifically the Tremere and Aurora, are in the labyrinth. Most frighteningly, Maximilian Strauss is among them, but we'll talk about him more in my video on the character of Eva. Out of desperation, Jasper smashes the mirror so that at the very least, the Tremere couldn't have access to the ley lines. Of course, that also meant no one would. As Eva and Jasper hash out their problems and share another kiss at the Griffith Observatory, Eva's sire Katya arrives on the scene, shocking Eva, who thought she had met the final death a long time ago. Again, we will discuss this more in Eva's video. Jasper is clearly jealous and clearly, well, scared. Focusing on things he can control, Jasper goes to the Weird Sisters, the three Tremere the coterie had rescued, and asks them to help him fix the mirror. One of the sisters, Hester, agrees, and in a few months' time, Jasper has the mirror repaired. Taking it down to the labyrinth along with another of the Weird Sisters, Kyoko, Nellie G's ghoul Greg, and Eva, Jasper places the mirror on the slab where it once was, and it magically reaffixes itself to the stone, and all appears to be as it should. Upon peering into the mirror, the four of them see that the Nosferatu in torpor is no longer on his slab. Traveling through the mirror, they discover a gargoyle had been left behind, supposedly by a Tremere named Garrick, but more likely by Strauss. They are able to injure it enough to escape the Nexus room, and Jasper, clearly able to see Eva on the brink of a hunger frenzy, offers her his wrist in full view of Kyoko and Greg. This is incredibly blissful for both of them. It shows off an intimacy between them that they rarely show in front of others.
There is only one thing that passes through your mind, Eva, and that is, it is exactly the peace you always hoped it would be. Jasper, there is no way to describe the ecstasy that you felt. Any positive emotion in your breathing life simply cannot compare. It's a sensation that exceeds all others in your experience. And if offered the opportunity to experience it again, you do not know if you could resist.
Later, Jasper and Eva return to the Nexus room with the intent of destroying the gargoyle. The fight commences and Eva takes significant damage. It is at this point Katya arrives through the mirror and helps dispatch the gargoyle. She offers Jasper his knife back and informs him that the Tremere have the Nosferatu that was in torpor. He is awake now and his name is Zelios, which prompts an immediate and frustrated response from Jasper. He was aware of the name and was angry he had been so afraid of him. In general, actually, Jasper seems frustrated. Eva is hurting and bent on revenge. His home has been invaded again and again. His human ex-girlfriend trades kindred secrets in exchange for Vitae. The Camarilla still wants him dead, and every night he barely seems to escape the final death. The last straw for Jasper's resolve breaks when Eva leaves him for parts unknown, and although she admits that she loves him, he doesn't say it back until she is already gone.
You better come back.
I'm gonna turn and walk out.
Blake finds you, Annabelle.
Later, when meeting with the coterie, he explodes at Annabelle and tells the group that he no longer wants to be bothered, that he wants to be left alone.
I don't want to do anything anymore. I want to be left alone.
Those of you closest to Jasper can smell the Vitae runs from his eyes down his face.
Victor, in his usual affable manner, is able to remind him of the women they rescued all those years ago, and convinces him that although he was dealt a bad hand from a bad deck, the world is better because he is in it. This, perhaps, allows Jasper to refocus his efforts as opposed to just disappearing into the labyrinth. Jasper seeks out Hester, the weird sister who repaired the mirror, and asks for her to teach him magic, just as he did with Eva after their first meeting. He says he needs to be taught how to use magic offensively, to make people go away. He goes on to say that Eva was always the one who did the magic, and Hester astutely asks if this worry of dying has something to do with Eva. Jasper admits that he doesn't want to die before she comes back. All he has left now is learning more magic to add to his arsenal, claiming that casting spells makes him feel strong. Will Season 5 return with a changed Jasper, confident in his thaumaturgy and ready to use that to protect his coterie? Or will this search for more and more power corrupt him as it did when he still breathed? Let me know your thoughts in the comments and tell me some of your favorite Jasper moments in LA by Night. I make content multiple times a week and every Monday is Masquerade and now sometimes Mage Monday. So if you enjoy what I do, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!